Happy Halloween. Welcome to Off the Wall Movie Reviews. I'm Aubrey, and today we'll be discussing the film The Eyes of My Mother, directed by Nicholas Pesce. Now, I forgot just how good this movie really is. It's about a young lady who lives a country life in a secluded farmhouse, where she starts to explore her darkest desires after a horrific turn of events. This film begins with a brief scene of someone being discovered wandering in the middle of a road. It seems as though the audience will be let in on what happens here later on. We are then taken to a home in the countryside where a family of three live. The mother and daughter are outside sitting in a field chatting. Their conversation continues in the kitchen, and the mother is teaching her daughter a lesson of her trade, but in an unorthodox way. Now, when I caught on to what the mother was teaching her daughter, I thought to myself, whoa, that's one hardcore lesson. But I couldn't help to think the end doesn't justify the means. Nonetheless, it would be kinda cool to be allowed to learn in such a visceral manner. The daughter, Francisca, is then shown playing outside. They get a visitor, but then something goes astray. We're then shown that this family has a very unusual way of dealing with a fairly common scenario that we all will experience someday. Francisca develops this unusual friendship in the process, one most would find repulsive. Through all of the abnormal behavior taking place, one moment does stand out that reminds me of Francisca's innocence, and it's a moment shared with her father. It's weird to think about, but there's some truth to the way the mind is displayed here. These are some very extreme examples, but when groomed, what we perceive as normal may look odd to someone else. We as human beings are naturally curious. So if we're given free rein to learn, experience, and be expressive in the most primal way, it must be exhilarating for some. We then get a time jump, and Francisca is now a woman. She's living a disturbing life, but it's business as usual for her. She does partake in one leisure activity, but that's the moment where she attempts something of the social norm, and it's completely awkward. Now you can see that she's completely out of her element, but it turns out she only participated in the act because of ulterior motives. Francisca goes one step further and explores another act of emotion. It took me by surprise. This leads to another character seeing this as a vulnerability and tries to get away with something. Now, Francisca's plan of action here is drastic, but I don't know if it was done out of feeling betrayed or the need for revenge. Leaving her motive ambiguous was a nice touch. At this point in the film, it takes an even darker turn. What Francisca commits next is really despicable and shows just how out of touch she is with empathy. What started out as naive and curiosity slowly turned into something twisted and selfish. This film really stands out for me when talking about movies that aren't talked about enough. This three-act structure was so well paced. It was feeding me information about the character in such an intriguing way. At times, I found myself empathizing with the character, even though her actions were so heinous. The direction of this film did such a good job painting a picture of how warped the mind can become. It kept me so enthralled. I didn't want to take my eyes off the screen. My intrigue is a testament to how masterfully crafted this film was. The cinematography was mesmerizing. It's gorgeously filmed in black and white. From the beginning shot of a bird's eye view of the forest to the last shot of a bird's eye view of the barn was flawless. The way the camera panned on one character's hands as they scratched the surface of a plank of wood for dear life was gripping. There's this one scene where the camera presents a corpse as it pans around the corner of a living room. And by the time we get a full view of the whole room, we have a character in there graciously dancing. The sound design was riveting. There were scenes that became more and more intense due to what I was hearing. For instance, there's this scene where a character catches up to someone that is fleeing. And what they do to the person is slightly off camera, but what sells the dread is the sound of what's happening. There's another scene where a character has just been taken and is stripped of someone that they love dearly. And while processing what's happening while they're being bound, they let out this scream. but is stripped of that too, in a way that I won't spoil. The audio cue of what this person has just come to terms with is spellbinding. The score kept with the theme. It felt creepy, keeping me unhinged during my viewing. It was just another great way of articulating what the director wanted you to feel at a moment's notice. It was quite effective, and I appreciate the film setting the mood. It's important to add to the auditory experience and be in sync in order to express exactly what you want to relate to the audience. I loved how Kika Magalhaes as Francisca was still able to display gracefulness despite the horrendous things her character did throughout the film. She was dazzling in the role, coming across intoxicating and menacing at the same time. This is my second viewing of this film, and I've come to really love it. I give The Eyes of My Mother 5 out of 5 stars. There's no such thing as a perfect movie, but I don't find anything bad worth mentioning. While I really enjoyed these Halloween segments, if you enjoyed these discussions, click that like button and subscribe. Enjoy the holiday and have a good one.